driven that. But we really pride ourselves, and I wanted to, most of you are new or weren't here back in 2008, so I wanted to make you aware of what we had done.
Who hired you in 2008 and 2011?
It was the FEDC, yes, sir. It wasn't this room, but I can't remember exactly where we met, but it was the FEDC that hired us. We actually did work closely with FEDC and the city, kind of some joint things happened there. Yes, sir.
What happened after 2011? Where'd it go?
Well, there were some things
All the
here.
changes and. Yeah.
No, sir. There were some things going here, and I will tell you, I made a call just about every month to check in on things. We would get emails to our office, we'd get calls saying, hey, what about Floresville? I'd hand them over to Jesse. There's obviously been some changes now, and
Let me ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
So, if I'm understanding what you're telling me, if I own a business and you contact me, convince me to come to Floresville, you've done a bunch of research that says why it's to my benefit.
Yes, sir.
So, why is it I don't pay for your services?
Well,
Why do you look to FEDC to pay for those services?
as a business, why don't, most of the time, businesses, whether it's a retail business that's looking to come here, they're gonna do a lot of the research. What communities do, like Floresville, is you take that extra step, that you're getting out there, you're doing the research as well, you've gotta be aggressive. And here's why I say it's up to the EDC, and why we work with so many economic development corporations and cities, is you're competing, not just with those communities directly around you, but you're competing with those throughout the state. Because what happens is, like Little Caesars, for example, just to use as an example, a lot of times they'll come in and they'll say, we're gonna open up 10 stores throughout the state. So you've gotta be one of those 10 stores. So we do have retailers that pay for our services. We do have developers that hire us. But about 80 to 90% of our clients are economic development corporations, and the other 10% are city
I
councils.
look at it like we're trying to sell ourselves. I'm here.
I understand that, but as a business person, I would also benefit from the research he does.
Yes, sir. And I don't know what kind of business you have, sir, but
No, I'm for FEDC.
oh, okay.
I'm just saying, what if?
Well, a lot of times you'll see chambers get involved. Some, if it's a chamber that has some money that can do this type of stuff.
So you're not double dipping on us?
No, sir.
He worked for Livernia. Tell us what you did for Livernia.
We worked with Livernia about a year and a half ago to go in and really identify what their opportunities were. Livernia is a little bit behind Floresville in terms of population. They've got some new housing going in there. But we actually came in, did the analysis, did the recruitment. You'll see if you look on Livernia's agenda for some upcoming meetings, some things that are happening with a very large property. I really can't say who that retailer is. I probably shouldn't because I think I'm being videotaped. But who that retailer is, that's coming in. But we did a lot for Livernia. You've seen that the new development that's happening there. I believe Taco Bell just recently opened. There's that new strip center that Bill Osborne put in there. I know Bill has the HEB center here as well. He does the leasing there. So we've had quite a bit of success. Just since I'm being taped today, I probably better not say who exactly we did. But they're a great reference of ours. I don't really see them as I guess they are a competing community, but you're steps ahead as far as where you're at in the retail life cycle. You've got a Walmart Supercenter. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Just walk me through a process here. Take Walmart there.
Yes, sir.
Where do you fit in, and where does our executive director fit in into that process?
Can I get to that in a few slides? Because I think I'll get exactly to your process if that's
fine.
okay. If I don't answer it, let me know.
Sure.
So that's our experience in working with Floresville. I will tell you, I was kind of excited driving down here because I know the community, I know the sites. A lot of the sites that were available back then are still available. Whether it's that UCR development that's right next to Walmart, potential there, whether it's the pad site in front of McCoy's right there. So there's a lot of opportunity here that I will tell you, I spent a lot of time, and I'm already jumping through my slides, so I'll go through my other slides quickly. But I actually walked into Walmart today and I just quizzed people that were just kind of walking through the aisles, and I said, what do you leave town for the most often? And I'll probably preach to the choir on this, but the number one response I got was sit-down casual restaurants, national sit-down casual restaurants. That's what's missing here. And I mean, it's obvious to me and I think to us to drive through the community to see that. So I think that's number one. We showed that, and I've got a gap analysis I'll show you in a minute, but that was number one as far as what leakage is happening. The other thing is clothing. And you've been successful. You've got Route 21, you've got Hibbett Sports, which is more the kids, clothing, sporting goods. You've got Factory Connection, you've got Bells. But you're missing that
And
clothing.
Cato.
And Cato Fashions. You've got that clothing aspect, but still, for a community of this size, a trade area of this size, still missing out on some of those. So, wanted to mention that. Real quick, this is the retail trade area we had determined back in 2011. And you can kind of see there, it's a hand-drawn trade area. Most companies will look at radials and drive times, computer models. Honestly, that doesn't tell the story for Floresville. People are, you can see where your trade area extends, and those sort of things. So our analysis, we come in and hand draw your trade area. It's just a better way to get that information in front of retailers. This trade area, I ran the numbers today, is just over 50,000. And to give you an example, Chili's requires 50,000 in a trade area before they'll locate in the community. So, not saying you're getting a Chili's, but
So
just,
how did Pleasanton get its Chili's? Canton County owns it?
what's that?
No.
Canton County. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure on that. But I can tell you just because I know Pleasanton, if Pleasanton got a Chili's, well, we need to have them here in a couple weeks meeting with us because you've got the demand here. It was obvious today driving around town, there's demand here. So there was 50,000 or so in that retail trade area. Each of these retailers have a customer profile they have to hit there. Our approach is very much on the ground. If we're gonna be out there pitching to retailers, restaurants, developers, we've gotta be in the community. I've gotta know, and it was the same way back in 2008, 2011, I've gotta know Floresville as good or as well as some of your best real estate agents. If I'm gonna be out there pitching, working alongside your executive director here, we've gotta know what's happening at each of these properties. We've gotta know who represents each of those properties. Do an area and local market analysis, community stakeholders. We did this back in 2008 where we met with a lot of the landowners. And a lot of the land is still the same landowners. So we're gonna have that connection with a lot of those as well. We talked to your retailers and restaurants that are already here. How are you doing? Where are your customers coming from? Those sort of things. I started that today. We meet with developers, we do the recruitment, and then we provide updates as we move along. Like I just mentioned, we've got to know what's happening, a road-by-road analysis. That's why I was here 6 hours early. New development opportunities, but I will be honest with you. You've got a lot of redevelopment opportunities, especially along 181. There are sites after site that are not serving their highest and best use. And in order for some of these retailers to come in, there's going to need to be some redevelopment. Land might be an issue. Price is one of the issues with land here in Floresville, just like it is in this entire region right now. But if you find the right retailer, you find the right developer, you can make these projects happen. So we've got to be in the community on a regular basis. Already talked about this, but defining the retail trade area. Our company came up with a way to actually scan license plates and based off of that license plate, take it to a household level, to where people are coming from. So I can drive, I could have done it this afternoon and maybe I should have, and so I can have it up here for you, but I can drive through your parking lot and videotape them with the special camera we have that'll actually tell us where your consumers are coming from. We didn't have this ability back in 2008, 2011. This is something we just came up with. But here's an example here. We do a lot of work in Longview, Texas, which is out in East Texas. Each of these blue dots here represents a person, a shopper, where their household is. It's much more accurate than getting zip code data, because the zip code can be so large. We actually do the license plate analysis. This is what it's going to take to get Floresville over the edge. You've got, some of these retailers, some of these restaurants that said, hey, we want to be there eventually, but you're not ready yet. This license plate analysis is going to give them factual data that they can be successful. So we would come on multiple trips, my team, not just myself, but on multiple trips, multiple shopping centers at multiple times to really figure out where consumers are coming from. And this is what helped drive that town center at Creekside development in New Braunfels. The developer in the city, or it's actually their Economic Development Corporation, New Braunfels, hired us to do that for their project, and they're about to start phase 3 and phase 4. So wanted to mention that this license plate analysis, I think, is going to take that trade area we defined to the next level and get some decisions, get some things to start happening there. We have a partnership with Esri. which is the leading provider of demographics in the retail industry. I'll share with you here in a minute, but you as a board, executive director, city, are going to have access to a mapping platform that we've developed with Esri. What that does is allows you, Mr. Baker, you could be sitting in, you could be working with a developer that's looking at that property next to Walmart there. You could be sitting in the car right there. You could pull up your iPad or your Kindle, and what it'll do, let me turn this on. I borrowed this from my son. It's an interactive mapping application that we put together specific for Floresville that Mr. Baker, you could click, what are the incomes in this region? Click on the button, it'll pull up all of the incomes right here on this iPad. You can then, while you're sitting in your car, email that to the site selector, email that to the developer. So that's something that comes along with us through our partnership with Esri that you'll have access to. Really neat tool. We also have the access to MasterCard data that'll actually give you, every time you swipe a credit card, obviously that information is being sold, you're being tracked. So we have access to that as well. So talked about a gap analysis, leakage analysis. I think you probably heard this before, but the leakage analysis tells us how much money is leaving Floresville, going to parts of San Antonio, other areas to shop. Maybe it's that Chili's in Pleasanton. So this gap analysis, I'll show you. We put a gap analysis together back in 2011. And I'll pass this around if y'all want to take a look at it. What this does is it compares potential sales in that trade area of 50,000 to actual sales of what's happening in Floresville. Okay, and it'll give us either a surplus or a leakage. And back then, you had a leakage, this is back in 2011, I'm sorry. You'll see that the 221 million, you had a leakage of almost $200 million, or a little over $200 million leaving on a regular basis. Now that consumer confidence is up, now that people are spending more money, that leakage number is going to be even higher. But Walmart, coming in, some of your new clothing stores, has really helped with that. So I will be honest with you, those numbers are not very old. If I'm being completely honest with you, I would not pay to have a study to redo all of this because it is still good information. Maybe there might be a few tweaks that need to happen, but we're here to help with that. Last few slides I have, land use analysis. I drove it today. I drove most of the community today. You have properties that are not serving their highest and best use. We come in and we look at each of those properties. We catalog the properties to say, hey, this site right here is better suited to be a Walgreens. Okay, this is better suited to be a CVS. I believe CVS left a while ago, but
They're back now.
they're back now. So
They bought somebody else.
they bought somebody out. So looking at each of these sites individually, that's the only way you're going to be successful at recruiting. Anybody can put together marketing packages and send them out, but where you're going to be successful and where it's going to speed up the process is if we can provide them, let's say it is Chili's or Applebee's or something along those lines. Here are the 3 sites that are available to you that fit that 2.5 acre model you're looking for. So that land use analysis, I think this is probably the most important thing we do. And that's us being on the ground, our experience, having worked in other communities. That's what, I'll tell you, that's what did all these deals in Gonzales, was providing sites to these retailers. The developer that bought the property there, sending him the old Walmart site to say, look, it's ready. We need a developer here, you can come in and bring that. So those are the things there. Marketing. This is something we specialize in as well, is up-to-date, very nice marketing pieces. You can see some of the marketing pieces we did for New Braunfels here. We'll actually put together what we call a retail market profile. I wasn't sure, I saw some kind of development packet or something y'all were looking at a little bit earlier there. We're putting together a marketing package, a feasibility package that's gonna tell these retailers they can't afford not to locate in Floresville. And that needs to be the goal. You cannot afford to locate here. We even put together a retail-specific website, which is talking about this interactive mapping application here. I'll be happy to share a link with that if y'all want to play around with that. We'll even do property visuals. Maybe it's a site that's not serving its highest and best use. We can come in and do property visuals to show this is what it could look like if it was a Walgreens. Okay, this is what it could look like if it was a restaurant, those sort of things. And then we do the same for developers as well. So we're not just recruiting retailers, we're also recruiting developers, and that's really key. One of the things I wanted to mention, especially since there is such an opportunity for casual sit-down restaurants, retailer growth in 2015. We're expecting in 2015, 42% of all new restaurants, or all new retailers that are coming in to be restaurants. Well, obviously that bodes well for Floresville because you need some casual sit-down national restaurants. You've got some great local restaurants that I've eaten at, but people are leaving by the herds to do that. The other next category that's the largest is apparel. You've got apparel, clothing retailers that are opening up. There's not a factory connection here. Are y'all familiar with Factory Connection? They just opened, that's one of the retailers that went into Gonzales. I made a call to Galen Hamilton. He's the site selector for Factory Connection. He's a friend of mine. He said he'd have somebody out here in the next couple of weeks to take a look
What
at
do
the
they
site.
do?
They do clothing for middle, like middle school, high school age clothing. Kind of like a Rue 21 in a sense, I guess, if you've been into Rue 21 before. So wanted to mention that bodes well. This is one of the slides I just presented at that basic economic development course I was talking about. But it made sense for this presentation. I think this is my last two slides. This is gonna talk to your question about how does this process happen? Well, first thing we do is we put together those feasibility packages. Who should be here that's not here? Okay, what are the retailers that are missing? We're gonna put together a feasibility package that shows them they cannot afford to locate, can't afford not to locate here. We send out emails. That's the first thing. We send out these packages. Then we follow up with phone calls. Then we set up actual meetings with these retailers and restaurants. Could be at this table right here. It could, Mr. Baker, it could be us sitting in that Walmart parking lot with the developer or retailer. We put together specific flyers and site profiles. Those sites that are not serving their highest and best use, we keep it up to date. We're contacted on a regular basis, but we keep it on a tracking spreadsheet. So Mr. Baker, you have access to it. All of you have access at all times to see who was contacted this week, who was added to the match list, who was added to the developer list. And we've got Basecamp is who we use as our project management software. That keeps everybody up to date. I like to say if they're not in on it or up on it, they're down on it. So that's why we communication in our business is key, and I want to make sure you're part of that. So we make the phone calls, we do the emails, we set up the meetings, we represent you at trade shows. You've got the International Council of Shopping Centers Convention coming up in May. We've been doing that conference for almost 16 years. We have our biggest booth we've ever had this year. We're out there working for you to get retailers here. But then you've also got your regional conferences. The one that I think you need to focus on the most is the regional conference that's in Dallas. It used to be in San Antonio, they moved it to Dallas, it's in November. And that's really over and above ICSC Recon, that's where your focus needs to be, is on that regional conference. Because those are at that regional conference, they're the ones that are moving into Texas. You go out to Vegas, and some of them are moving into Texas, some of them are not. So wanted to mention that, we represent you at trade shows. Already showed you this, but you'll get that iPad app. You own that. You have access to that. It can also be pulled up on a computer. It really looks better on a computer as well, but you can pull it up on an iPad, a cell phone. It allows you to run customized reports, maps, pull up maps of what retailers are here, traffic counts, all of that. I really can see you doing that, not just in a retail setting, but in an industrial manufacturing setting, trying to get somebody to come here as well. Working with existing businesses. This is something that is key to me. I live in Dripping Springs. If you know where Dripping Springs is, just west of Austin. I'm actually on the Economic Development Committee in Dripping Springs. And I love small businesses, I love local businesses, I love downtown areas. And my wife and I, when we travel, we try to eat at places like that, try to go to places like that. Because of that, we put an emphasis on working with your local and existing businesses as well. Sure, we're gonna get retailers interested, national retailers and restaurants interested, but if we can help a local business that's not carrying an item, actually carry an item and do better sales, or actually expand into a category, or maybe it's a franchisee or an entrepreneur, that's what we do. I picture us doing 3 to 4 different workshops, seminars throughout this process. You know, sometimes it's a breakfast setting, sometimes it's a lunch setting, something like that. So wanted to make sure to mention that as well. We also focus on healthcare. I had somebody in Walmart today tell me, well, we've got a hospital and we've got some of these things, but I still, for some of these things, I still got to go to San Antonio, every week like that. So we also focus on recruiting healthcare. They look at different things, But healthcare providers look at a lot of the same things retailers look at. Are there people here? Are there enough people to be successful? And then, already talked about trade show representation. And then last slide, retail recruitment is a process, and retailers must be recruited. A great example of that is we started in 2008. And there's 7 or 8 retailers and restaurants that we work with to get to the community. It just takes time. We've already built the relationships. Right here are a lot of the comments and the recruitment that we've done on the city's behalf and sending information out here, just keeping notes of that. You know, we've been successful. And I wanted, and I
That's not in our packet though, is it?
that's not in your packet, no, sir. Wanted to, was thankful to get a chance to get in front of you, since I know there's been some changes here, and we can be successful. Instead of starting over, I think what we need to do, or what, in my honest opinion, is let's take what we've already done, let's add to it. Let's not recreate the wheel, let's not start over, but let's continue to talk to some of these, let's add to that list and go from there. So that's my slide, that's my presentation. I wanted to get here early and just kind of refamiliarize myself with the community. We'll shoot you straight. I just got done a couple of months ago telling the community we couldn't help them. A town of about 5,000 north of Dallas. And I'll be honest with you, we can help you. Just spending time here, there's sites that need repair, there's new development that needs to happen. So did I answer your question, how the process?
Well, generally, yes, but I'm
Okay.
a little more simple-minded than that.
Okay.
I want you to go to the process of how you did on Walmart. That was one,
What we did exactly for
Yes.
them. Okay, I'm sorry. So,
and how you related or worked with Jesse.
so what we did with Walmart, back in, I believe it was end of 2007, early 2008, one of the things that the FEDC said is, we want to get a bigger Walmart. You know, saw other communities getting that larger Walmart. Well, I made the phone call to a gentleman named Hunter Hart, which is the site selector for Walmart. He's actually now since moved up from there, but he was focused on the region. So what we did is we put together one of those feasibility packages that I talked about that's going to have that retailer's logo on it. We sent it to them. We called them. Next thing you know, they had called Jesse and they were in town looking for sites, looking at those sort of things. Jesse rode around with them. They had us put together some additional marketing materials, a lot of phone calls back and forth, a lot of emails back and forth. They put the land under contract, made those things kind of happen, and they were here. What we did is we showed them there was demand, that there was the potential, and I can guarantee you right now, they are very excited that they opened a store here, because you just look at that store, and it's a busy store. You're kind of that retail hub for this area. So that's how we did it. Is
But more than that process couldn't happen with only the executive director working it, or you working it by yourself. It's a joint.
It has to be joint. You know, we're gonna make the contacts out there, but if I'm gonna meet with Walmart in your community, Mr. Baker's gotta be involved.
No, I understand.
You know, so that's why, so yes, I mean, we're obviously gonna reach out there, we're gonna do the recruitment for you, but we want y'all involved as much as possible, because
How do you price your stuff? I know there's probably no formal.
Before you ask that
proposal.
question, can I ask one more basic question? Kind of a follow-up of what Fred was asking. From my perspective, Aaron, you're in an enviable position. You've been here twice before. We've paid out money twice before, I assume. And you've brought something in, I assume. Therefore, you ought to be able to net out. Floresville, you invested $1,000 and we gave you $10,000 back.
sure,
I'd like to see that presented.
absolutely, we could definitely do that. And I think you're gonna be happy when you see how many millions of dollars it is.
Isn't that a worthwhile question to ask?
And
Right.
let me give you a good example. We talked about those 7 or 8, and I don't wanna say 100% the retail coach is why Walmart's here. 100% this is why Route 21's here, okay? But we did make that contact, and we did follow up with them, and we did bring them to the table. So, I mean, yes, sir, it's easy for us, we can't get exactly what their sales are to the penny, but we can get very close.
It just seems like an enviable piece of information that you have that nobody else would have.
And I'll be honest-
Please.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to well, number one, make a comment.
Sure.
You know, we have talked to a few other folks, and we'll continue to talk to
Yes, sir.
a few others. But I think it's long overdue that this community teams up with someone like this to do some of this work. The other thing I want to just say that as I was driving from Austin today, I was thinking about this, and it's, you know, we've already talked about this, it's about who has relationships. And, you know, Tommy has relationships with certain people, but at the same time, they have relationships with certain people. And me being a president of an statewide association starting in July, you know, right now the session's in, legislature's in session. Well, if I want a meeting with the Speaker of the House, I don't call the Speaker's office. I call a good friend of mine that's a classmate of the Speaker since grade school.
Sure.
And we're in the Speaker's house with a meeting. And so that's what these guys do, and that's what's so important to realize. They're getting us the face-to-face contact.
Who do you know?
And the other thing I've got a question about
Sir.
is as we kind of think through all this, we completely realize the underuse of property
Mhm.
along the highway.
Yeah.
We also have that challenge of pricing wars and it being way more, you know, asking price than what you
Sure.
probably should have before. But we do know that there's a real shortage of some strip center type
Mhm.
activity here. You know, do you wait until you can find a developer to develop that retail type space? Because we do know we have some businesses that would like to move in those facilities as soon as they're built.
It's kind of a two-phase approach. I mean, it kind of happens at the same time. That land use analysis that I talked about, we've got to be finding out what sites are available. We've got to go talk to the landowners. We've got to talk to maybe it's a local developer, you know, but, you know, you've got properties that are for sale or
Yeah.
potentially are for sale. But at the same time, so we've got to go get the buy-in. That's part of those stakeholder meetings that we have. So we go talk to them. But at the same time, we're getting developers. You know, I know Action Properties, which is the developer that did that Gonzalez Center, they're looking to get into Floresville.
Well, at first, I was kind of thinking about this, thinking that maybe we need to try to we have identified potential opportunities to develop maybe a strip mall area to get some businesses in. I believe Tommy's been talking to some folks there, and, you know, one thought process is, well, we get that going so we can recruit somebody to fill that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you wait for that
Well, so
to
kind of
happen,
it's a chicken
you're
and
not,
egg.
I know it.
That's why we focus on not just recruiting retailers, we focus on recruiting developers as well, because you gotta look at it that way too.
Sure.
You get retailers interested, but then you don't have a developer interested, or, you know, that's what it's kind of a retailer recruitment, developer recruitment, buy-in from the landowner. And I'll be honest with you, yeah, I looked at land prices today, just, you know, looking on my iPad and some things, and yeah, you know, you are overpriced, but, that's no different than most
Sure.
other
Well, that's
places
exactly
around
what we're
here.
talking
That's
about.
no different than, you know, and retailers care about making money. And if you can prove to a retailer they're gonna make money on the site, then they might pay a little bit more.
Yeah, so how do you price your stuff, your contracts?
So I put together a proposal to do everything that we talked about from A to Z at $40,000 for a year. And then year two is about half the price, and then year three, the same thing. And those, year two and year three are optional. You know, I'll be honest with you, just kind of refamiliarizing myself, we probably could do this project for a little bit less, just because we're not needing to recreate the wheel here. I think we could probably, if I'm being honest with you, I think we could probably do this project in about $30,000. And I believe that's about what we did the project for back in 2008. Times have changed, prices have gone up, those sort of things, there's some new things we do. But that's really what we're looking at, to do that. And that includes recruiting the whole time, representing at trade shows, the marketing materials. But the key to all of this, I think you hit on it, you mentioned you were driving back talking about relationships. I can 100% guarantee you, there's not a firm out there that has relationships in this part of Texas that we do, really in all of Texas. But that's gonna be the key thing. Somebody else from out of state or somebody from 300 miles away trying to sell you is not gonna do it. I can be here in an hour and 45 minutes. If we need to meet with somebody, that's where what our team brings to the table.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave you for here, so my
Sure.
question be, you were here and worked last with the city of Floresville, EDC in 2008,
2011.
2011.
Yeah, well, all we did in 2008, we put together.
Because they had
strategy.
there were two different contracts, right? So there was a 2007, 2008 contract that Floresville had with you.
And then what Floresville did, or the EDC had us do in 2011, was just update the gap analysis, the leakage analysis, all of the numbers, the demographics, that part of it.
It was
So
just a report.
it was just a report, and that's, and the reason we did that is Jesse called us and he said, hey, I've got 2 retailers that are looking to come here, they want to see these specific reports. So that's why we updated that in 2011.
For what cost, in 2011?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I'll have to go back and look. It was 5,000 or less.
Okay, and so then from 2011 to 2015, there's been no contact activity with the city of Floresville?
No, I think we all know there's been some things going on previously and new directors coming in. So we've stayed in contact. We did not have an official agreement from 2012 to 2014. I was looking back, we did send some emails over. We had some retailers that were interested that we forwarded on to Jesse. But there has not been an agreement since 2000, into 2011, really.
And Livonia didn't renew your agreement this time?
They what? I'm sorry.
Livonia didn't renew your agreement with them?
No, they have a different kind of model. Depending on the community, we put together a different proposal or a different model. Their model was more data-driven in recruitment to get them started on a large development project. Like I mentioned, there's a development project you can see in their agenda that's going to be taking place pretty soon, a very large development. So we've kind of gotten there. They will have an option to renew with us if they want to. That's their option.
But they have a no-compete clause in their contract, right?
What's that?
They have a non-compete clause, because they consider us their competitor.
Yeah, that was,
They should.
our contract's been done for about 6 months, but when we were working back with them about a year and a half ago, there was a non-complete clause, but that's not the case here.
So that has expired?
It has expired, yes, sir, and I checked on that before we came in, just to make sure, you know, all the stuff was there, but
So
I will
your
tell
interest-
you.
Your interest now happened because you saw us looking at competitors? Because my office wasn't contacted after we had your competitor come
Sure.
to present. So your interest now is peaked because of our development or because of competition?
Well, I'll be honest with you, absolutely. I don't want my competitor to get this project. I'll be 100% honest with you. But you look back in the history of what we've done for the EDC, and our interest never faded. There was a changeover in executive directors, and Mr. Baker did reach out to me, and it was back when we had that non-compete clause with Floresville. Since has expired, that's why we're back. You know, we can't just sit around and wait on the community to do those sort of things. So that's, however, if we do get a chance to work with you, we will sign a non-compete with Floresville, just like we do with all of our communities.
You mentioned downtown area redevelopment.
Sure.
What do you see for Floresville?
So I actually spent about an hour in downtown walking around, and I really like the layout of your downtown. To me, it kind of makes you feel at home. I know they're doing work on the courthouse and all of that, so that was neat to see. It's not going to be national retailer driven. I think we all know that. But local business, local restaurant driven. I like to think about Johnson City. Do y'all know where Johnson City is? If you've been to their downtown recently, some things are happening. There's a new brew house happening there. Same thing with Dripping Springs. Dripping Springs is where I live. I mentioned I'm on the committee there. You've got some new things happening there. So it's going to be local mom and pop driven, absolutely. We're working a project in Victoria, obviously a lot larger community, but we've got a developer that actually goes into old downtowns. He's working in San Angelo and some other smaller communities, and he will actually put in a hotel downtown with retail on the bottom to get people to downtown. That's your key is, after about 5 o'clock, downtown is completely dead. So in order for something to happen downtown, you've got to have some kind of entertainment, nightlife, tie it to some of these other things that are happening. So it's hard for me to say right now, this is what I would do to downtown, but we're going to do an analysis and we're going to identify, you know, potential uses for downtown. But that's the biggest issue is stores are closed by 5 o'clock.
This may be a rhetorical question.
Okay.
On the other hand, it may not be.
Okay.
I suspect that everybody would like to see economic development.
Sure.
That's good. I think we'll all agree on that. But by the same token, you hate to see mom and pops put out of business.
Yeah.
How is that balanced?
So I think a lot of times there's a I don't know if it's a miscommunication, misrepresentation, but a lot of times local businesses think if this retailer's coming in, they're gonna put me out of business. Well, I've seen studies that say that does happen, but I've seen studies that say it does the opposite. I think the way you look at this is you've got people leaving on a regular basis, going to other places specifically to eat, you know,
Right.
clothing shop, those sort of things. But if you get, let's just, hypothetically, okay, you get Applebee's, you get Chili's. Well, I know for some of us in this room, for some of those people I talked to today, that's gonna keep them shopping here maybe once a week more than they are now. So they're not gonna wanna eat at Chili's every night, they're not gonna wanna eat at Applebee's every night, so maybe they're gonna go back to the restaurant, local mom and pop. So I think what you're gonna do in getting some additional development here, national retailers and restaurants, is expand that trade area, which your local businesses can benefit on. And that's why we do, turn it off, that's why we do our local business coaching and our seminars, is so that they can take advantage of all of this
So why do
analysis.
they don't figure out a way for the downtown area to benefit at the same time?
That's always been my concern.
Well,
One of the issues,
I don't like
the
that.
challenge with downtown is that the highway, the main highway doesn't run through there.
Right.
yeah,
And,
Oh, I
and,
agree,
you know,
yeah.
that's the challenge, but, you know, you have to identify more service-related businesses that could utilize that space versus retailers. And so if we ever have a retailer trying to locate downtown because they don't have the traffic, I think we need to be realistic with them too, to make sure they understand it may not be a good fit.
Yeah,
you know,
I-
for-
even if we don't get a chance to,
Right, right.
even if we don't get a chance to work with you, I'll make sure Mr. Baker has that contact for that hotel developer, the downtown developer I'm talking about.
I think that is a key, that or, not condos, but something that people could actually live.
Like a lot more.
Yeah.
That's what you need downtown, you need that.
A grocery store.
Yeah, so, one of the issues, just from having spent some time here, one of the issues is wayfinding. And you probably heard that term before, wayfinding, where you're going. You need better wayfinding than downtown. For the
Yeah.
average person coming through Floresville, there is a sign that says 6 blocks this way, downtown, with the hand pointing that way. But you need better wayfinding, and that's where we can help, as well as identifying where to put signs. We do some work in Navasota, Texas, which is a small community. Navasota, Texas is a small community on the outside of College Station. And Navasota has had a resurgence, okay? They've got a new super Walmart that'll be coming in the next couple of years. We've helped them with that. But their downtown, they have a new city hall. They have a new downtown that is just, if you haven't been through there, go through there. What it was is, we got a sign on Highway 6, which is the highway that runs right through College Station. We got a sign that said, "Come visit downtown." And no kidding, they got a couple of restaurants in there, people started coming off of there, but it was that wayfinding and getting people to where they're going from. Most people didn't know they even had it downtown. So that's where you start. Is it gonna be an easy process? Absolutely not. I don't want it to sound like it is going to be an easy process. But in my honest opinion, that's where you start from, and we can help you. Our focus, obviously, national retailers and restaurants, but we also have a large focus on downtown areas.
Aaron, let me interject something that we all are very interested in downtown. Coincidentally, we have with us Mr. Harry Groves, who's very familiar with downtown projects. Harry, do you have anything to comment or questions that kind of might educate us all? Not trying to put you on the spot, but you do have a lot of experience.
Well, he's on the button as far as what I've always considered needs to be done. Aaron, the Main Street program by the State of Texas Historical Commission, we had from 2001 to 2005. I was the manager of it. And downtown blossomed in just 4 years. And after the program was dismantled, it stopped.
Okay.
And it hasn't really grown. The service businesses have retained most of the buildings that are downtown. There's still some vacancies.
Sure.
There's still property that doesn't have anything in it. Trail drivers has been a big boon to downtown because it stays open pretty late.
Yes, sir.
And the parking is packed until they close. So it's things like that we really would like to concentrate on is we're gonna have our new courthouse fixed, our old courthouse fixed like brand new. We don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it's a great tourist attraction. And there's just all kinds of things that the Main Street program had planned for downtown that didn't get done.
Now, when you said the Main Street program dismantled, was that a Floresville thing, or was that what happened there? I mean,
Lack of funding.
lack of funding, okay. I'm very familiar with the Main Street program. A lot of our communities that we work in are doing that. We look at a lot of the same things they do to revitalize communities, what can happen there. your courthouse being refurbished or redeveloped, what's happening there. Yeah, think about like Throckmorton, Texas, which is a very small town just outside of, well, it's kind of between Dallas and Wichita Falls and that area there. They just got done on rehabbing their courtyard or their courthouse, and it's brought people to downtown. So you need destinations, you need things that are gonna bring people down there. You need housing, that type of stuff downtown, but it takes time.
It does.
But the worst thing you can do is forget about downtown. I was in a community about 2 years ago, and they said they're just gonna raise their downtown, get rid of it, because everything's gone out on the freeway, or out on the interstate. No, downtown is the pulse of the community. When I was a site selector for Subway, first place they'd send me was downtown. They would say, go look at downtown and see what's happening there. That tells us how well the community's doing. So not saying Floresville's doing a bad job, but there's an improvement that can happen in downtown.
If our city council and EDC board were to pack up into a bus and go to McKinney, Georgetown, Denton, Pittsburgh, you name it, you'll see what can happen to an historic downtown that doesn't have a highway running through it.
Sure. And not that I want to take the credit for that, but if you look at McKinney, Georgetown, they're both clients of ours, or have been in the past.
Cool.
And we did some work with them. So we know what it takes. If you've been to Georgetown recently, Thundercloud Subs has come in and taken over an old fire station.
All right.
Put in a restaurant there. We helped in bringing that in. So, I mean, you're right on the button. I mean, you look at Longview, Texas, Longview up in East Texas, and see what they're doing with their downtown. That's the kind of stuff that happens here. It needs to happen here. Johnson City, Dripping Springs. But yes, I mean, I think, like you said, I mean, I agree with what you said there, and we'd love a chance. Last thing I'll say here, instead of starting over, we'll work with you to build on what we've done, to go from there. Even if y'all decide not to do anything, I will come in and sit down with you and go through everything and say, this is my recommendation on where you head from here, and kind of go from there.
Harry, thank you for your comments, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity.
For sure. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
No, I just
And
recommended the
it-
proposal
as
to
a-
Mr. Baker.
It's a conduit, if you work up those numbers that Jay asked for,
Absolutely.
you can send them to me and I can disperse it out.
Yeah,
No problem.
we'll get on that right away. I had already submitted a proposal. I think we had come in at, and this was just to get a proposal so I could get on this agenda, but we had, I think, proposed doing it for 40,000. But just refamiliarizing myself, looking back in our files and what we already have ready to go, we'd come in at 30,000. So I'll get you.
And what is second and third year?
Second and third year, we'd do it at half the price, just like we do every time. So instead of 40, 20, 20, you're looking at 30, 15, 15.
Well,
But those are option years, correct?
just
I'm
to
sorry,
start
those are
discussion,
option
brings
years.
it down.
Option
10.
years, yes, sir.
Maybe we'll talk a little longer.
Thank you.
Hey, thank y'all.
That was
What
good.
year did you graduate from?
What's that?
Whereabouts?
Oh, Texas A&M University, College Station.
That helped a lot right there.
I noticed the ring.
You got it, bump ring for them, you got it?
We,
Hey, he's gonna miss that.
undergrad was at Texas A&M, and then I got my MBA at Texas A&M Commerce up in Northeast Texas. So, I'm a phone call away, an email away. I can be here in an hour and 45 minutes. If we need to meet again, let me know. And thanks for the time.
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need to take a break right quick, or want to move on?
I'm okay.
Okay. Number 8, discussion and possible action item.
Can we go back?
Can we go back 5?
You want to, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Harry, we keep you all night.
All right.
Go, Harry, go.
Okay, Harry, you're on.
Okay.
And this in your packet is, I had it surveyed so that the triangle where we're gonna put the sign is owned by FEDC, so we didn't have to get any permission from anybody, and Harry's designed it around there. Good looking.
Tommy gave me some limited parameters, where the sign was gonna go. We went out and looked at it. I went back out several times. He gave me a list of, well, we might wanna show a dozen companies on there, and that changed to 20.
That's nice.
A little small, isn't it?
This is the one you put in your train set.
So I photoshopped that into the site.
Oh, neat.
Oh, wow.
This one's bigger. We got a full-grown sign pretty quick.
Oh, that looks really nice.
And as Harry will point out, this is a read from both directions of FM.
Yeah, it's double-sided. Thank you. That's the way it's sitting in that picture now.
Do we need electricity to it?
It's not
Tommy
in the-
gave me the parameter to not think about electricity at this stage of it until we kick this thing around for a while. So the possibility of lighting does exist with LEDs, battery-powered, solar-powered battery LEDs over the little roof, pointing at the header sign so that it would be visible at night. If truckers were coming in late, or if somebody was looking for this at night, at least they would see the name of the industrial park. I designed that header to give it some character and some flair for our area. I made it to use corrugated tin, brand new corrugated tin from like MBCI out on I-10, that would give it an industrial feel. It wouldn't be, I don't think it will be an expensive project to build a purlin frame inside and skin it. And then the little frames that the company plaques are in, those are like 2x2 steel, angle iron, welded up. They're 38 inches wide and 8 foot tall. And we have a galvanizing company out on East Houston Street that could galvanize those pieces and the frame around the header at the top.
The size of this is how large?
That is 9 inches by 38 inches. That's this panel here.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially with the white on the dark.
And the reason.
Now, if I could figure out where we can go momentarily for me to get 64 feet away from you, that's how far that picture was taken from the middle of the intersection. To be able to read this, if you pulled off 537 and you were a stranger and you wanted to see if your company that you're looking for is on that panel, they might stop right there in the middle of that intersection and look at it. And that's how this was developed.
And the 20 is to make room, because, none of us know who's gonna sell off, they bought 20 acres, they may need 10, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 companies come in and we gotta try to have a nameplate. So that was,
This is the material I would recommend. It's polyaluminum, aluminum-faced polyplastic. And we can develop a simple mounting system like this with just 1/4-20 bolts and stop nuts that anybody could change out the signs. It wouldn't require a mechanics degree.
Fred, you want?
Bird nests get down in there?
Say again?
Bird nests get down in there?
I don't think so. I think it's too small for them to be fooling with it.
What, on some of these companies that have big investments out there, they're gonna want more than one section of that sign?
Where what?
Well, like, Mulehoven or whatever they're called.
Two sides
Yeah,
together.
Yeah, but some of those that have big investments out there, some larger than others, are they going to want larger individual signs?
I don't know.
My feeling is, we're putting up the sign and we have to have representation of these 20. And so they don't get a vote. I mean, we're paying for it.
Okay.
And
Hold on just
we
half a
love you,
second.
but
Hold on half a second. The number of letters is gonna dictate the size that these letters can be.
You're gonna
And
start with the
therefore
longest one.
And therefore the readability.
So
So we need to
this,
get the longest one and see what size it can be.
As it
so we're not
stands
that
right
big
now,
read.
but if they subdivide
Right.
off,
Right.
And that'll change.
Yeah.
This is a picture I took of an office signage in Tulsa, and that's where I got the idea of using, all the companies using the same typeface, same font.
Yeah.
You can't have any logos, you just gotta have
Sure. Name,
this.
sure. Name, yeah.
And the longest one dictates what the font height would be.
Jay's gonna like this color scheme better, I can already.
By the way, I'm working on a little project at the Botanical Gardens. And in the back where we're working, A&M has built two big test beds, about the size of this room, each one. And they just popped out of the ground, the most beautiful maroon bonnets you've ever
Oh,
seen.
really?
Fantastic.
I agree with you, but I wouldn't have different sizes because
So
Different size signs.
this would be the material that I would recommend behind the orange panels. It's the gray on the little model. Aluminum, just an aluminum face. And that's what all the bolts would be mounted into.
So that's the color you would say that those signs would be?
That's what I like. I didn't.
Talking about this?
No, it would be this area right here,
Behind it.
Jay. This
This
area
okay, okay.
on each side.
Yep.
Probably top and bottom.
Yep.
I get it.
And the little space in between
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
to give it some texture.
How do we determine who knows where you put them in alpha order, at least in the beginning, or?
Shoot, I don't know.
I mean, we could certainly do alpha order. I just don't want, I've been in situations where companies, think they have a big
Yeah,
stick, and they
yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's like, we need to have 20 boards up, because we don't know who's gonna subdivide and sell off. And so I think it's, we pay for
Well,
it.
it's our sign, so it's just an information board is what it is.
It is, and,
Do they have lot numbers? How do you identify where they are?
well, we're not identifying here except
by the
the
name.
just the street address, but just by the name.
Okay, what's the base of that? What is your base gonna be kind of?
Well, my idea